Getting beat up by 9 guys at Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shade.
Welcome to the Heel to the Face podcast.
And this right here,
with your hosts, Jared Wicks, Brandon Icebreaker Clements, and Paul Boy Green Esden.
It doesn't matter what your name is. And that's the bottom line.
I have received an email.
Don't forget to email the show at heeltotheface@hotmail.com.
Best there is, the best there was, or the best there ever will be.
Brett screwed Brett because it's what's best for business.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. The champ is here. Oh yeah, new era. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for ya.
Tweet us using the handle @HeelToTheFace.
Woo! Let's get ready to suck it!
The bell is rung, so let's step in the ring with your hosts, Paul, Brandon, and Jared.
You might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
The Heel to the Face podcast is on the air. We're live in Syracuse, New York for just a few days before Christmas, a few days coming off of the Clash of Champions pay-per-view. It is December the 20th, 21st, whenever you are listening to us, right before the holidays and right before our last show of 2017. We are joined this week with Brandon the Icebreaker Clements. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Myself, Jared, on Twitter at Just Jared Wicks. And most importantly, you can follow the program at Heel to the Face on Twitter. That's where you'll find our Twitter question of the week. And, you know, as I'm saying that, I just realized I don't think we posted a Twitter question of the week this week. I knew we were missing something heading into the show, but either way, that is where you will find our Twitter question of the week every single week, as well as that's where you'll find the program and anything related. We don't have a website. You just follow us right on Twitter. That's the easiest way to go. And I want to start this week this week talking about the big announcement on Monday night. And my problem with the announcement, I'm very excited about the first ever Women's Royal Rumble at the Royal Rumble in about 6 weeks' time. But my problem with the Royal Rumble, and it's not with the Royal Rumble itself, it's kind of twofold. One, it's the first Royal Rumble, but there's not a lot of women, and the negative that goes with that is that there's 2 champions currently. So that means 2 of the best women are not in the first ever Royal Rumble. And essentially that means there won't be a women's championship match at the Royal Rumble, because then you would have to take out even more women. There's so many men that the Royal Rumble seems to be an easy pay-per-view because there are so many men. You can find 30 guys, and then you can still find another 8 that aren't even in the Rumble to be in matches at the pay-per-view. This, it's like all hands on deck for the women. And another problem I find with it is the importance of the women's belt, meaning that whoever wins the Royal Rumble, you will face the champion at WrestleMania, which will be about 2.5 months' time following the Royal Rumble. How is one of the brands going to survive without really putting the title on the line for 2.5 months? Let's say somebody from SmackDown wins. Let's say Natalya wins the Royal Rumble and she challenges Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. How is SmackDown going to go throughout February and throughout March, like building up this women's title match? Because we've already become accustomed to the world title being an important championship. In fact, we've grown accustomed to the fact that they put the world title on the line to somebody else outside of whoever wins the Royal Rumble. This one, I feel whoever wins the Royal Rumble is, let's say Charlotte. She's probably going into the Royal Rumble as the champion. Whoever wins the Royal Rumble, let's say they're going to face Charlotte or they're going to face the women's champion on the Monday Night Raw side. Are they going to defend the titles at the pay-per-view in between WrestleMania, and how are they going to keep that fresh?
That's the thing. I mean, that's the one thing I don't like about the split branding, where you have, you know, the Raw and the SmackDown teams. You know, that's the one thing I don't like about it. It really does water down, you know, going to the point of Charlotte's not going to be in the Royal Rumble match. Alexa Bliss is not going to be in the Royal Rumble match. That really waters down it waters down the product just a little bit.
Yeah, because those are 2 of your big names, and this is supposed to be like a big event. The first ever Royal Rumble on the men's side it had not a lot of great names. I don't think Hulk Hogan was even in the very first Royal Rumble because it was a TV exclusive event. But let's say the first Royal Rumble that was on pay-per-view, you know, it had all the big names. You know, you didn't have excluding the champions. Now, with the men's side, and we've grown accustomed to, there's so many big names in the men's side that you can exclude the champion from being in the Royal Rumble. The women's one, I feel, though, like, This is a new thing. You got to get it, off on a right foot. So it stinks that the very first one is excluding two big women. I like that it's both brands together. That's fun. But because it's excluding those women, it's going to be 20 at the most, which is fine.
It'll still be good.
But the problem is the men's Royal Rumble, again, I go back to, there's so many men that when number 30 hits, you sometimes don't know. This time you're going to know everyone who's in the Royal Rumble because there's only so many women.
Unless they bring up some surprise that they some big name in the indie circuit, maybe they could hire somebody. I mean, we've seen that happen before where you
somebody from the Mae Young Classic they could bring in.
Yeah, somebody that, maybe they bring in, at that time, I'm not saying Trish Stratus would come back, but maybe they bring in somebody that's a legend, so to speak. Maybe Lita comes back. I don't know. Maybe that's how you spice it up.
This reminds me of? You ever play the old video games, let's say for the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and they'd have the Royal Rumble mode, but there would only be, at best, 30 wrestlers on the game, so everybody on the game. So there was no surprise. There was no, I want these 30 guys and leave these 10 out. That's what you get with the regular Royal Rumble, is you get these 30 guys and leave these 15 out.
Some of those guys out, yeah.
But this is every woman has to be in it, especially the fact that 2 women are out of it. That means every woman you've ever heard of that's currently in wrestling will be in this Royal Rumble. There's no she's not in it, she didn't make it. They don't need the quote-unquote qualifying matches.
I do like the premise behind it. I mean, if since we are in the dual brand, you have the Raw and the SmackDown brand, I like the fact that you're going to see some NXT talent. You're going to see like a Peyton Royce, on NXT coming up. Maybe she can make some thunder. Maybe Billy Kay, the iconic duo, they're coming up soon anyways, I think. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is a good time to get their names out there. So I like it as a springboard to that point, but
how are they going to keep the title fresh? Because
that's like
the women's title is not the men's world championship.
They should have one title. That's I know it's hard to do with the dual branding. I wish we didn't have Raw and SmackDown. I wish everybody was together.
Well, you could do what they used to do when the draft first came about way back in 2002, and that's the champion goes to both shows. So in the sense that we can still have the brand extension, but when it comes to talking about the women, we could have one women's champion, and she could be on both shows.
And make a big deal out of it, too. A unified women's champion. Something like that. Make it, it's undisputed champion like they did when Chris Jericho beat The Rock and Stone Cold on the same night.
And that would make this Royal Rumble a bigger deal.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Here's the best part. You make it unified. You put, you unify it, and the winner of the match is the champ. Remember, they've done that before on the men's side.
They've done that at the Royal Rumble itself. How about this one? You have the champions, because let's say this, all right? So Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss are both the women's champions. Normally in the men's side, the champions are not on the Royal Rumble, but they're on the card defending their championships. So if John Cena is a champion or Roman Reigns is a champion, they're there, they're defending the belt, so it's not like they're excluded from the event. Are Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss going to be excluded from this event because they can't defend the championships because they would have to defend it against somebody, and that would remove 2 more women from the Royal Rumble itself?
Well, you're not going to put them in the match where, if Charlotte wins, she doesn't have to defend a title against herself.
That could kind of create some, that could create some sort of intrigue if, put the champions in it, and then if they win, they don't have to defend the championship.
Maybe,
because what are you doing with Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair? Are they not going to be at one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year?
I would hope so.
Well, what are they going to be doing there?
That's the problem.
They're not going to be defending the belts because you're not going to take Natalya out of the Rumble, and you're not going to take Peyton Royce out of the Rumble or Nia Jax.
That's the problem. This announcement, they got to come up with something within the next 6 weeks,
and that's another problem too. It's great that they're going to have a women's Royal Rumble, but I assume are they going to put the title on? They're going to have to put the title on the line before the Royal Rumble takes place. That's 6 weeks, and the women's division. It's not, again, like the men's division where without a championship match, it gets stale. If the championship's not on the line or something meaningful is not on the line, a lot of times I'm not super interested.
Yeah, that's true.
I love the women's wrestling, and I love the women's championship matches like that Hell in a Cell match they had and the Money in the Bank. But again, Money in the Bank, there was something on the line. If it's just a women's tag team match on Raw, not that interested. With the men's, like I say, the world title is a lot where, let's say a number 1 contendership match or something like that at the No Way Out pay-per-view before gets me in. A lot of times they've not put the men's title on the line at the pay-per-view before the Royal Rumble. And it's still been interesting, like an Elimination Chamber match or something where the title's not on the line, but the winner's the number 1 contender. With the women, I feel if the title's not on the line, it's not that intriguing. So, how are you going to keep the women's division really fresh? And another kind of side note, and some people mentioned this on Twitter. Listen, we understand that kayfabe for the most part is, we're in the reality era. If you were to call this an era, every era in WWE's got a name. The Attitude Era, the new generation, that whole thing.
Or the Undisputed Era.
So,
which they might be coming up soon too.
Let's say we're in the reality era where they have all the reality shows, Total Divas, Total Bellas, the whole 9 yards, and where we kind of know what's going on behind the curtain. But still, when Raw went off the air, do we need Paige and Sasha Banks like hugging and holding their hands up? We're excited that there's going to be a Royal Rumble, but you got to keep the bad guys still kind of
you got to keep
at the end they were like all hugging and holding hands. You're like, whoa, these are the bad guys. They're not supposed to be holding their hands up in the air with the good guys.
What's the point of having the show called Heel to the Face if we're not going to have a heel and a face? You know what I mean? That's the problem that I have.
Because that's how Raw went off the air. It went off the air with everyone holding each other's hands up in the air, like celebrating, and you had like Paige and Liv Morgan and all these other, holding each other's hands and celebrating and smiling, and you're like, what's going on?
To me, it was kind of awkward. You're spot on. I was watching it too, and I'm like, well, this is weird. Like, you wouldn't see that. You wouldn't see a good and a bad the good guy or the bad guy. In this case, the good girl and the bad girl shaking hands or holding hands, and you would see them not even they'd be on opposite sides of the ring, and they wouldn't even acknowledge each other. That's just how it would usually work. That's the problem.
They didn't have to be at each other's throats, but when the announcement was made,
there. Just stand on one side of the ring.
They didn't have to hold hands with each other.
Yeah, I get that.
They gotta hold hands with themselves, with their own group. The good guys hold hands with the good posse. They didn't have to then conjoin hands.
Yeah, no, you just have Absolution, hang together, holding hands or cheering because they're on
with
their
Sasha
side.
Banks and stuff. Yeah,
I thought it was odd. Raw overall was a good show. We got to see Hideo Itami finally. That was cool.
That was really cool. And what was he made his debut on Monday Night Raw, and then we saw him make his cruiserweight, debut on 205 Live.
Kyle Delaney, man.
Now, here is a question. Now, we saw on Monday Night Raw Itami make his debut on Monday Night Raw with a quote-unquote Finn Balor. What are we going to see with Finn Balor? Are they going to kind of lean towards maybe Hideo Itami, something with Finn Balor? I think that would be
a good match. I mean, they've had history over in Japan. It only makes sense.
And here's a question that I kind of saw this. So everyone knows about the 205 Live tour that's supposed to be coming up. Could they throw Finn Balor on that? He is kind of a lower weight.
He's a small guy.
And we saw him teaming up with Hideo. I'm going to get the name.
Hideo Itami.
Hideo Itami. We saw him teaming up on Raw with him. And, that's as soon as I saw they trying to, bring him on Raw to kind of get him acquainted with Finn Balor. Because I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, WWE announced this week that Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy are going to headline all the 205 Live shows.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's different.
I don't know if it's going to be the same match every single night, or there's going to be a different stipulation. But they must have put the tickets on sale and saw what was coming back and said, we need to fix this somehow. So they're taking, they realize it as well. I thought, years ago, before 205 Live would have even been a thing, that this is not going to work on its own.
No, you have to bring.
I don't know
why
they didn't think that ahead of time, but they didn't.
It should just be what it usually is. What it should be is supplementing each show.
They want money, so they want it to work on its own. They want it to be like NXT.
I get it.
So they're doing a tour, and it's not going to work out, so they have to supplement the 205 Live with their real talent.
NXT, it's its own thing. Because it's not just a certain class, not like a cruiserweight class or a heavyweight class.
The NXT tag teams are not going to sell out anything.
No, the thing is, it's the minor leagues. It's the minor leagues of WWE.
But it's a mix of everything. The 205 Live is just one weight classification,
and you get men, you get women, you get heavyweights, you get you get tag teams, you get everything. That's the thing I like about NXT because, and here's the thing, a lot of the guys you would think it's like your developmental system, which in theory, yes, it is, but a lot of it is these indie guys that are a little bit older now, long in the tooth, that are coming over to WWE and eventually, like Samoa Joe, came up to the big roster. There's a lot of these guys that came from TNA, Ring of Honor. They're still down in NXT. It's funny because they called it developmental. I mean, to us wrestling fans, you're just trying to make the indie guys, do it the WWE way. That's all it really is. Because there's a difference between the indie way and the WWE way. You would know this because back when 2CW was still around, that's a whole different type of wrestling compared to, it's a whole different show.
That's what NXT is. NXT is them trying, and the Performance Center, everything the WWE does. And I kind of took last year, I think I mentioned this before, I took kind of, exception to the fact of, Triple H when he was talking about where he finds wrestlers, and he never really said anything about indie wrestling. He said from football and from celebrity and from, former athletes. And I'm like, how about from wrestling? You find wrestlers from wrestling.
You can go to the local VFW.
And he didn't acknowledge that at all. It was on ESPN when they were saying, where are you finding talent? And I kind of got upset because that's what he said. They said, where are you finding talent? And instead of saying, well, you may not know this, and a great publicity for the thousands and thousands and thousands of wrestling organizations out there, he didn't mention anything. He said, we get them from football, we get them from basketball, we get them from every walk of life, but didn't mention wrestling. That'd be like NFL, asking Roger Goodell, where are all the NFL stars coming from? And instead of saying, college, high school, Pop Warner, you say, other celebrities, who don't want to be actors anymore, musicians and rock stars. And you're like, whoa, how about football? You may have like one former rock star that is now a football player, but the majority of wrestlers that are wrestlers are all from wrestling.
Yeah, most of them, most of them are. They have the natural ability as an athlete. So yes, I mean Triple H's point. Yes, I agree. You have to have athleticism to be in the WWE. I get that.
Most of the NXT guys, though, they are indeed former wrestlers, and they're doing that. They're learning the WWE
They
way.
weren't football first. They were wrestling first. They were 18 years old. They're going to.
There's probably some former football players in there, and some former UFC guys in there, and some former basketball players in there, and et cetera, that didn't work out. And they got the athletic ability, but they never got picked up in a professional league or got cut from a professional league. So, but I would say the majority of them are wrestlers.
Yeah, they're coming from different groups like Ring of Honor or TNA, or they're high-end indie guys that maybe they would make the appearances on Ring of Honor, but they're doing their own thing, doing their own shows. A lot of these guys are wrestling in front of 30 people. You know what I mean? It's a lot of times it's just family and friends, Besides, and
Colin Delaney is a good example. He's now what looks to be on the 205 roster, while Hideo Itami made his debut on 205 on Tuesday night. He made it against Colin Delaney, who back in 2008, that's exactly what he was brought in for at the time. He was just a one-night only kind of squash guy to make the other talent an enhancement talent. Yeah. That's what he was, and he ended up being an enhancement talent for week and week and week because he had such a good rapport backstage, and he turned into a character. And now for the second week in a row, he is enhancement talent, and more importantly, he's enhancement talent on 205 Live, which seems like a place that would fit him pretty well. A place where he might be enhancement talent for not too much longer before maybe he can start being a mainstay. And when you have a live tour and you only have a 45-minute show and you want to sell out an arena and 45 minutes isn't going to cut it, then you have to have more talent. And so that's probably what WWE's thinking as well with Colin Delaney. Hey, we're going on tour, and we have to have a 2.5-hour show.
He's long in the tooth.
And we only got 45 minutes of roster.
He's long in the tooth. He's been around the indie game for a long time. And he was back with ECW days. What, 08 was that?
Yeah.
08. He's been around a long time. The guy knows how to wrestle.
Teamed up with Tommy Dreamer at SummerSlam in 2008, so he's been around. He'd be a great addition for 205 Live, so probably we'll see him again next week, and whether he be enhancement talent for how much longer, but either way, I think he's going to be sticking around for a little bit.
I think he will.
But it just stinks that WWE didn't know that they were going to have to supplement real WWE people with this tour. Because that's the problem with, that they've had in the past when they've had the UK thing. People go there and they see WWE and they bring their kids and they go, "Where's John Cena?" So
but they get Tyler Bate and they're like, "Oh, huh?"
So that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be supplementing Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy, which to me is kind of a negative because are you not going to do it on TV now? Is this going to be like a Starrcade? Is this going to be a 205 Live tour exclusive that they're going to be touring this match all over? Like, we're not going to do this as a television feud?
I don't know. That's a good one. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. That's the problem with, that's the problem. I mean, going, with the 205, that's the problem because it should just be a supplement to the show. It should be like when you're on the live tour, you have the Raw crew going to the, a lot, like right now you have the Raw crew going to some event centers and you got the SmackDown Live crew going to certain, event centers. You split up the 205 Live crew and have them do matches on Raw, have them do matches on SmackDown. That's the way it should be. I don't think having their own show is just. Going back to that, I don't think they should. I think NXT is a very small case where it works.
So we see that 205 Live in the future, come January, is probably going to be pre-taped before SmackDown and not live for the month of January, thanks to the new Facebook show. Now, are you interested in this? The Mixed Match Challenge that is going to be live on Facebook following SmackDown, which I assume is going to take the 205 Live place, and means now that I'm going to have to find a Facebook. I'd never had a Facebook, and I've never had a reason. Millions of people got Facebook, and now you got me. I got somewhat of a reason. I'm not going to probably invent a Facebook for all of this because I don't want to throw my information out there just so I can watch some WWE. I don't want, crank calls and, all these emails to be coming in now. And I'm not saying that's exactly what it is, but I don't have a Facebook. So
yeah, we know.
I want to stay out of Facebook as much as I can. So I'm going to have to find some way to watch this. But are you interested in this Mixed Match Challenge?
I'll watch it just because it does pique my interest. So I will watch it just for that. I mean, the concept, I'm still, I get the concept, but to see it unfold is really what I want to see. I mean, is it something I'm going to watch live? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if I think about it, maybe I will. I just want to see how it goes on Facebook, because now that Facebook's getting into the television world now, so that's the other thing. Facebook's moving in that direction, of course. I'm interested. I'm not going to get hyped about it. Like, I know some people are really excited. I mean, I was reading social media, and people are super excited because, oh, my God, WWE is going to be on Facebook. You can watch it on Facebook. I'll be honest. I have a Facebook.
The platform is not what is going to ever excite me. Watching, like, WWE is going to be on something. Some people I'm more interested is the matches themselves. Like, more, for example, if it wasn't on Facebook, if it was on YouTube or if it was on USA Network, would it be of interest to you? I mean, forget the platform that it's live on. I mean, think about the actual matches.
It's in theory, I think, because the fans, quote unquote, have control. I think that's what makes it interesting, so they can kind of make the matches. So, in that, yes, I will watch. I think it will be interesting. But I know a lot of people that they're like, cool, I can watch this for free, because I know a lot of people that don't use cable anymore, so they don't have USA Network, they don't use Hulu, so the only way to watch wrestling is on the WWE Network. So, and you have to pay for that too. So it's a different way to watch it. It's watching it for free. All you gotta do is have a Facebook subscription, which we'll get Jared on that hopefully soon.
I'll get somebody else, because I do not want to try to log on to Facebook. But moving on now, we talk about the pay-per-view event from Sunday night. And really, the only thing I want to touch on, it was an all right pay-per-view. Dolph Ziggler, interesting, became the new United States champion.
Which I predicted, by the way.
And we saw him at SmackDown do, I'm not sure. He left the title in the ring and then left. We don't know where that.
Yeah, what the hell is the point of that?
I don't know. But my question is, and I thought about it at the time, and then after the event was over, I then thought about it even more, and that's, why did the tag team match not go on last? That was it. Yeah, that was the main event.
That, to me, that was the reason why I was really interested in watching it.
Because AJ Styles defended the belt against Jinder Mahal, like many thought, and there was nothing interesting that went on around it.
It was a good match, yes, but
I felt the end of the tag team match with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens felt like the end of the show.
Yeah, I agree. It should have been. It was odd placement.
Yeah, that had the crowd highest. It had the most on the line when it comes outside of just a championship, in the sense of, intrigue of how it was going to play. Because the AJ Styles, Jinder Mahal, not many people were wondering how it was going to play out. Many people thought AJ Styles was going to win. Yeah, they weren't interested. Like, they knew Kevin Owens had a chance to win, and they knew Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon were going to do something, but they didn't know exactly what. And that was very intriguing, Shane McMahon. I have to say, I like the fact that it was, the first pinfall thing was kind of like the Kevin Owens pushing Daniel Bryan and kind of screwed it up. But I loved that look when Shane McMahon, when nothing stopped him. It wasn't, somebody pushed him out of the way. It wasn't the traditional, somebody grabbed the leg. It was just 1, 2, and then he just said, like,
screw it.
And just stopped. That was kind of like, I love him just holding his hand in the air and just being like, what am I doing? It wasn't it wasn't like the first time, like I said, where he got pushed out of the way, or somebody got screwed, or there was some sort of explanation behind it. It was just Shane McMahon just not doing the count.
It's like 1, 2. Nah, I'm not doing it.
And then just that look of like Shane McMahon just in the corner. That was probably the highlight of the night. That match was the best match of the night.
Yeah, I mean, the only other match I was actually interested in watching was the Fatal 4-Way Tag Team. That was good. I thought that was a good match. And we also saw, which I was hoping it was 2 days late. I was hoping Benjamin and Gable were gonna win the titles. They didn't win the titles on SmackDown, but they did beat the Usos in pretty convincing fashion on Tuesday night. I was hoping they were going to win, but I mean, overall the match was good. I thought that was, between that match and the career threatening match for Owens and Zayn. To me, that was it.
What do you do with Owens and Zayn now? Because you saw them team up with Mahal on SmackDown, and the problem with that, Jinder Mahal's still a bad guy, and a booable bad guy.
Yeah.
Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, what are they? Because they're on the side of Daniel Bryan. So, and I see Daniel Bryan was trying to disassociate himself a little bit from them, saying, like, if you guys don't get off me, I'm going to fire you. Because I think they want to keep them bad guys, and the problem with being associated with Daniel Bryan and him doing the pinfall is that they're kind of good guys.
I honestly think they're in a weird spot. It's like they're the bad guys that the fans like. You know what I mean? It's like one of those areas, like a lot of times you get those baby faces where it's like, oh, the kids love John Cena because it's John Cena. He's the Superman.
But the fans like him a lot of times because they're associated with the general manager of SmackDown. That's the good guy. Daniel Bryan's considered the good guy. Shane McMahon right now is considered the bad guy.
Their gimmick is so over,
and they're associated with the good guy.
Their gimmick is so over anyways, like regardless of whether or not like they're portrayed as good or bad, they're going to get a good reaction because their gimmick is really good. I think the Yep movement, which they said is going to be going as long as they feel like going, I think it's one of those spots where, yes, they got to move away from the Daniel Bryan thing, but why not make Daniel Bryan a heel? You know what I mean? Maybe move it around that way. Maybe he's portrayed as the bad guy, even though the fans love Daniel Bryan. They're gonna cheer him whether he's the worst guy, he's the quote unquote bad guy or not, and maybe push it, maybe spin it around where, oh man, maybe Shane was the good guy in this situation. Maybe because Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn really aren't the guys that really should be on the show. Maybe they're detriment to the roster. Like there's ways you can script it where maybe you can do it that way. It's going to be a challenge, but associating yourself with Daniel Bryan, I mean, there's only two ways you can go about it. You either make Daniel Bryan a heel and you flip it, which could be a lot of work there, or what they were sort of doing anyways was, hey, we're going to fire you. Daniel Bryan's like, leave me alone, I'm firing you. That's pretty much how it went. So maybe I think that's the direction they're going. So maybe they're kind of going to be on their own. I would have liked to see Daniel Bryan mix it up on Sunday. That was the only thing I was hoping we'd see. Maybe we'd see.
Well, if he's going to be competing at WrestleMania, we got to save a little bit for now.
Not much. I mean,
it is December.
I wanted to see just him snap and maybe do like the what is that? He comes his jump kick or whatever. Where he comes like Hideo Itami does. Hideo Itami actually started it, where he kind of it's like a running or like a diving kick.
Yes.
I forget. I call it.
When we started on kicks, because that might be leading towards my tweet of the week. We're getting a little too super kick crazy in the world of professional wrestling. And now I'm not the only one that feels that way. Some prominent athletes and other professional wrestlers have stuff to say about that. But what you're saying is, yeah, I mean, I would like to see him mix it up, but we got lots of time. And I think all signs are pointing to he will indeed be mixing it up pretty soon.
I hope so.
I mean,
I want him back in the ring.
Every year when WrestleMania ends, you're wondering, what are they possibly going to be able to give us next year? And so far, as it's starting to unfold, you're starting to see there's a lot of potential.
I think Daniel Bryan's getting back in the ring. Huh? It's going to go one or two ways. He's going to get back in the ring as a wrestler in WWE, or he's going to get back in the ring as a wrestler.
I think he's going to be in WWE. I think they're not doing all this for nothing. I think he's definitely. I see him versus Shane McMahon for control of SmackDown at WrestleMania.
You think so?
Or for something. I see that happening. And that's the perfect way because WWE doesn't really want him in the ring in the sense of a wrestling match. Shane McMahon's not the quote unquote wrestler. Shane McMahon's not a wrestler. He's a mix. He mixes it up. Yeah. And that's what they could do with Daniel Bryan. He's not going to be taking so many falls. They're not going to be doing suplexes, or he's probably not going to be doing the diving headbutt or doing a lot of lock and holds. More like, kendo sticks and trash cans.
Just kind of beating each other up with stuff.
Yeah.
With toys.
So when we return, we will get to our tweet of the week as we're going to take a break right now. And our Twitter question of the week is going to unfold right here on the show. So before it gets out to the general public, we're going to discuss it as you're listening to the Heel of the Face podcast on Sports War Radio, Rat Pack Radio, iTunes, and on YouTube.
The New York Jets are rising and are ready to compete in the AFC. Boy Green and Ty Butler will give you everything you need to know about the Jets every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. From reviewing the previous game and looking ahead to the next matchup, to all of the news and 4 downs, the Jet Zone has everything. Follow @BoyGreen25 and @TyDButler on Twitter. Proud member of Sports War Radio. Let the battle begin.
This program is simulcast on WRPR Rat Pack Radio. Go to ratpacksports.com for more information.
Do you want to stay up to date on the latest sports news? Come check out After the Whistle from 4 to 5 p.m. every Friday night. We talk about the NHL, we talk about the NFL, we talk about the MLB. You name it, we got it. Tune in on Sports War Radio.
Now is the time to get your voice heard. Sports War Radio is now accepting applications for driven and knowledgeable sports fans who want to start their very own podcast about their favorite team. Sports War Radio has an international audience and is growing fast. Don't miss the chance to become the go-to news source for your favorite team. Email sportswarradio@gmail.com and tell us why you would be a great addition to our team. Sports War Radio. Let the battle begin.
Now is the time to get your voice heard. Sports War Radio is now accepting applications for driven and knowledgeable sports fans who want to start their very own podcast about their favorite team. Sports War Radio has an international audience and is growing fast. Don't miss the chance to become the go-to news source for your favorite team. Email sportswarradio@gmail.com and tell us why you would be a great addition to our team. Sports War Radio. Let the battle begin.
Let's get back to the action. This is the Heel to the Face podcast on Sports War Radio.
Heel to the Face podcast is back on the air, and it is time for our Twitter question of the week. We've yet to reveal it on Twitter. It is being published as we speak, so we're going to debut it right here between me and Brandon. And let me just tell you, this is such a good Twitter question of the week. And he doesn't know what it is yet, but he already does because we've already discussed it already, and believe me, we could probably have a whole show based on it. So Vince McMahon is considering restarting the XFL or a football league similar. It's football in general. We haven't got any sort of confirmation that it's the XFL exactly, but something that he's restarting or constructing a new football league. I don't know if, maybe the 30 for 30 XFL,
Sparked a little something?
Sparked a little something like it did with ECW when the ECW DVD sales, the best of ECW, the rise and fall, sparked the whole reboom of ECW back in 2006. But he's starting a new football league. So the question is, your thoughts, awful, really awful, okay, or awesome? We'll start with you, Brandon.
I know we've talked about this. We actually talked about this last week, actually.
I added really awful because, to me, awful wasn't bad enough.
It's funny. I'm on the other end of the spectrum, man. I think it's awesome. As a football fan, the ratings are down for NFL, and I think I think Vince has learned a lot about what he did wrong with the XFL, and I think he's taken enough time to maybe if he plans this out really well and doesn't rush it like he did the XFL. This could turn out to be something halfway decent. I don't expect it to ever take over the NFL because that's not going to happen. I can be flat out honest with you, but I think it's awesome in the sense where, once again, maybe it gives the NFL some competition again, and maybe it sparks some more ideas like it did before. Like we were talking about, Jerry Jones took some ideas from the XFL and applied them to the NFL. So maybe we'll see how it runs and see if it actually happens. But I think it's awesome across the board because I'm sorry, I'm a football guy, so if there's football, I'm watching.
Here's my problem. It's not just football. It's Vince McMahon and the WWE and professional wrestling. Let's say go back to WCW, but right now WWE is the only main one out there that's trying to do this. WCW did try to do this back in the day. Keep your hands out of everything else. There are just everything that is not wrestling by WWE has failed. They try movies, they stink. They try restaurants.
I wouldn't say all the movies stink.
It's not needed. It's not
you think
needed.
Do you think all the movies have been that bad?
Jim Cornette on his podcast recently said that who this hurts? This hurts the wrestlers because who has to work more to pay for all these ventures that Vince McMahon wants to be out there? Vince McMahon wants his hands in every little pie. Vince McMahon wants to be so legitimate. I think that's the problem. Vince McMahon can't stand the fact that he is just a wrestling god and, he's not legitimized, that Vince McMahon can't walk into the ESPY Awards and be considered elite, that he can't walk onto, CBS Sports and be considered elite. He wants to be accepted by everybody. He wants the restaurant world to love him. He wants the movie world to love him. He wants Tom Hanks to be like, Vince McMahon, that guy's Steven Spielberg. Vince McMahon, that guy's Emerald. He wants to have his hands in all these things. And he just realizes he's great at wrestling. He's great at professional wrestling, the best there is and the best there ever was at professional wrestling. But when it comes to everything else, he's not. When it comes to everybody else, he just needs to stay out of it. When it comes to bodybuilding, when it comes to supplements, when it comes to restaurants, when it comes to football, when it comes to everything, he just needs to keep his hands out of it and just focus on wrestling. He's not successful in anything. He one time wanted to open up a casino, then never even panned out. Just stay out of it, because it hurts the wrestlers, because who has to work more house shows to pay for all these failures?
Yeah, but I was reading more about the article. Vince is using his own money to fund it. It's not going to be the WWE money. It's separate. He's going to.
Well, where do you get his own money? All his money comes from WWE. It's separate in the sense he might have to ask people for money. He might not have to ask for handouts, but his money is WWE's money, and WWE.
He's not going to tie WWE into it, though, indirectly.
No, I
understand.
He's going to start his own. He's not going to
thing.
have The Rock out there and Stone Cold Steve Austin like he did at the XFL doing the pro. He's not going to be having Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross call the games. I get that aspect of it, but I just feel like, why can't he just look at things and say,
because the ratings are down in the NFL. The ratings have been these are the worst ratings the NFL's had.
But to start a football league, and these ventures these are not cheap. These aren't thousands of dollars. These are millions of dollars. WWF New York costs $30 million to run. All right, these aren't just these small little things that aren't going to hurt anybody. These cost so much money and take so much of your time and effort, that by the time this even happens, where will the NFL be? The NFL ratings might be at an all-time high by the time this thing gets kicked off. I mean, by the time you find players and sponsors and everything you need for a league.
I don't think it will. I think the NFL, I don't think it's the end of the NFL or anything by any means. I will not go on the record and say that. But the ratings are, with everything going on, I mean, we won't do politics because, the politics are politics, obviously. We all have a view on them, and not everybody agrees. But I think with everything going on and the way there's a stance on different things, it divides a lot of people. I've talked to people in all walks of life, anybody you can think of, and sometimes it surprises you what the responses are. And I know a lot of people that are only watching college football. They're not watching the NFL because they're boycotting, because they have their beliefs on certain things.
Well, there's always been a lot of people who only watch college football, especially down in the South. So this whole kneeling in the football thing only probably amplifies the fact, because they have really high caliber college football already in the South. The Tennessees, the Alabamas.
Tennessee's a mess, but
they're already very comparable to the NFL when it comes to, there's 100,000 people in the stands. When it comes to the money that comes in, it's the same. As going to an Alabama football game is the exact equivalent of going to an NFL football game when it comes to the presentation, the fireworks, the tailgating, the whole 9 yards. So this whole kneeling in the NFL, especially to the people who take that mostly into effect are the people down south in the quote-unquote Bible Belt of the United States. So that only gives them more fodder and more fire to be watching college football. So I kind of get that already, but I just feel that, it's not, again, I'm not just speaking football. I'm just saying, Vince, just
let's see. I want to see what he does. I'm just curious because I know a lot of football fans that don't like Roger Goodell as a commissioner. And I know a lot of fans won't watch football.
Do they like Vince McMahon?
Who doesn't like Vince McMahon? I love Vince McMahon. I'm a WWE fan. I've always liked Vince McMahon. I think he is. Yeah,
I know you do, but I'm saying these people that don't like Roger Goodell, do they like Vince McMahon better?
They might. We don't know. Maybe we should get. I'll reach out to people.
And the people too. They're going to know about Vince McMahon in the XFL. So unlike the XFL, are they even going to give this a chance? Because they gave the XFL a chance and then fell off. I mean, the ratings were at an all-time high week 1 of the XFL. Are they going to already go in this ahead of time? No.
Well, here's the thing. You have to get the investors. That's the thing that you got to do. You got to make sure you get the right investors, because Vince can't foot the bill by himself. There's got to be guys like Sean Diddy Combs, whatever he goes by nowadays. It was Puff Daddy at one point, P Diddy, whatever. He wants to get in on the Carolina Panthers deal. Maybe you get him involved in the XFL or whatever this potentially is going to be. Get people like that, which they have deep pockets and they're willing to, take a chance, roll the dice. And you don't get 32 teams. Maybe you get, 10 teams, 8 teams, whatever it might
Well,
be.
yeah, I mean, the XFL only had, I think, 8 teams.
Yeah, you get 8 or 10 teams, and then you see where it goes.
I mean, it's hundreds of athletes and
you could, but
10
you know what?
cities.
You know how many football players, you know how many great football players
I'm not
never played in
saying
the NFL?
they're not there. I'm just saying to get them all together under one roof.
I think you could do it. You just have to market it the right way. And the thing is, the XFL, the biggest mistake was they rushed it too quickly. They came up with the idea, and within a short amount of time, they were already broadcasting it. You have to make sure you have all your pitfalls in place, because I remember in one scenario, the feed went down on one of the games or whatever it was. I think, and that you gotta work everything out. I mean, we work in the side of a business where you gotta have the technical aspect down. That's the big thing. Everything else plays itself out. So it's like if he plans this out right and learns from what he did before, I would be interested to see it. I would catch the game. It might not be on network TV. It might be on like USA Network, which I'm fine with.
Well, a lot of the XFL games were on the USA Network. I remember they were on TNN and USA Network. And a lot of the WWE.
Maybe you use your WWE platform and say, you know what? Let's package this together. I
thought they weren't going to use it. That's the thing. Now you're going back and saying now you want them to use the WWE platform.
I mean, you can indirectly work out deals. There's behind the scenes you could say, well, we've already had this great partnership for all these years on the USA Network. Let's cut a deal. We throw the XFL, whatever the name's going to be, and go from there. I see deals like that being done. There's always backdoor deals being done. That's just how business works. There's always a backdoor way of getting in on certain things, and if anyone can make these backdoor deals work, Vince McMahon is one of the guys that can do it.
All right, so we're going to agree to disagree on this one for sure. This could be a never-ending topic. It's time to move on to our tweet of the week as we wrap up this week's edition of the program. Mine comes from the MMA world. Daniel Cormier, he's a big star in the mixed martial arts in UFC. He sent out this tweet in response to Ring of Honor's Final Battle pay-per-view. A clip has been circulating in the world of professional wrestling where everybody is just super kicking with the Young Bucks. It's a 25-second clip where it's the Young Bucks super kicking, and then they're getting super kicked back, where it just turns into exactly what they're known for, a super kick party. And Daniel Cormier responded by saying, "This is pathetic. This is what people want to see. Go to a god-dang gymnastics competition. Suplex, body slams, pile drivers, do some old-school wrestling, man. DDT. I remember when the Frankensteiner was the most you'd ever see someone flip. I say boo to this BS." Now, that'll be my tweet of the week, but you can also add the fact that Cody Rhodes, he wasn't happy when he read this. He said, "It's not pathetic. The paying audience enjoyed it. UFC is thriving and pro wrestling has been going strong since 1920. Besides, most of y'all ask Hunter for a job when the wheels fall off anyways, and most of you are on the comp list at Staples." I'm believing he refers to Staples Center. "So lay the fuck off," meaning, hey, you love professional wrestling. You love this. You all want to come see it when it's at Staples Center. So you UFC guys, just stay out of it and stop dissing our product.
And here's the thing. Daniel Cormier before he was a UFC guy, he was a wrestler. He was an amateur wrestler. So to me, that like...
But what he's saying, he's not I don't think he's dissing wrestling. He's dissing...
To a point he is.
He's dissing the gymnastics of wrestling.
The presentation of it. Like
the Young Bucks, he's dissing the flips and stuff. He's not dissing wrestling. Like he said, he wants to see more wrestling. He wants to see less
I like seeing it
silliness of slapping hands and
I like
joking around.
I
in
like
the ring.
all of that stuff. And here's the thing. I'm not a Daniel Cormier guy to begin with. I've always been, a Bones Jones guy, which we could talk a whole nother hour about that. But I've never been a fan of Cormier. So what he says really doesn't give me, I don't feel any substance behind anything he says because I think he's full of crap most of the time anyways. I mean, he's a hell of a competitor, but he's always been a paper champion because John Bones Jones has been the guy. And he can't beat John Bones Jones, but he still has a championship because John Bones Jones has his personal issues. So for me, Daniel Cormier is one of those guys where he just needs to know his place. You're a UFC guy. Shut the hell up and keep doing your octagon thing. Because you know what? If you burn your bridge, guess what? You might need a job a few years from now when Dana White said, well, you're used goods. We've already used you for millions of dollars. We don't need you anymore. Then you're going to be knocking on the door saying, hey Hunter, can you, I could use some work. And here's the thing. Speaking of that, Ronda Rousey, maybe, going back to the Royal Rumble deal, maybe we see her in the Royal Rumble, going full circle.
I didn't even think about that, but as soon as you said it, it was like, how could I not think about it? It was just like a light bulb went off. Yeah. So what's your tweet of the week this week?
So my tweet of the week, one of my usual suspects, WWE Creative Humor. You guys know the usual. So it's a quote. It was a funny quote that he created. It says, "Fire me, please, fire me. I've got 100 indie dates lined up just in case. And he said it was a funny quote that he was funny. It was a joking quote of Daniel Bryan, because he really would. As soon if he left WWE, he would have dates for years.
Yeah,
he wouldn't. Daniel Bryan would make so much money on the indie circuit, he wouldn't need a WWE. So that's my tweet of the week. It's WWE creative humor. They're always reliable. So.
All right, so that's going to do it for this week's edition of the program. Next week, we will wrap up 2017. We'll try to do some best of the year for the final show of 2017, getting you ready for 2018, and most importantly, WrestleMania season leading up to the Royal Rumble. So once again, you can follow the program on Twitter at Heel to the Face. For Brandon the Icebreaker Clements, for myself, Jared Wicks, this has been the Heel to the Face podcast on Sports War Radio, Rat Pack Radio, iTunes, and YouTube.